So apparently, accepting a tutoring job to pay off your student loans can completely derail your life in ways you never saw coming. My name is Min-jun Park, 21 years old, third-year economics major at Seoul National University, and professional yes man to anyone who waves money in my direction. I don't have rich parents. I don't have a trust fund. What I do have is a mountain of debt, a part-time job at a convenience store that pays barely enough to cover ramen, and exactly zero backup plans if this whole get a degree and escape poverty thing doesn't work out. Which is why when Professor Kang pulls me aside after advanced microeconomics and tells me there's a special tutoring opportunity that pays more in 1 month than I make in 6, I don't ask questions. I just say yes. Big mistake. Huge mistake. Possibly life-altering mistake. The client? Nathaniel Shin, as in Shin Industries, as in the family that owns half the tech companies in the country and probably has more money in their couch cushions than my family will see in 3 generations. Professor Kang explains that Nathaniel's father, CEO Shin himself, personally requested a tutor for his son who's struggling in his 2nd year at the same university. The pay? 5 million won per month. For tutoring! My brain actually short-circuits trying to process that number. Why me, I ask, because surely there are tutors way more qualified than a broke junior who's mostly surviving on caffeine and spite. Professor Kang gives me this look like I've asked the world's dumbest question, because you're the top student in your year, Min-jun, and because CEO Shin specifically requested someone relatable, someone who understands what it's like to work for success rather than inherit it. Translation, they want someone their spoiled rich son won't immediately write off as another paid employee kissing up to the family name. I signed the contract that afternoon. It's the easiest decision I've ever made, and simultaneously the moment my entire life shifts off its axis. The Shin family estate isn't a house. It's basically a small city with gates, security, and the kind of architecture that screams, we have so much money we literally don't know what to do with it. I show up on a Saturday morning wearing my nicest clothes, which is still clearly bargain bin compared to what the security guard is wearing, and I'm escorted through approximately 17 hallways before reaching what they call the study. It's bigger than my entire apartment, and sitting in the middle of it, slouched in a leather chair that probably costs more than my tuition, headphones on, completely ignoring the world, is Nathaniel Shin. He's not what I expected. I had prepared myself for entitled, arrogant, probably rude. What I get instead is this absolutely gorgeous guy with dark red hair that falls perfectly, even though it looks deliberately messy, sharp features that belong on magazine covers, and this energy that's less spoiled rich kid and more, I'm so bored with existing, I might spontaneously combust. He's wearing an expensive hoodie and sweatpants that somehow look designer, and he doesn't even look up when I enter. Nathaniel? I try, standing awkwardly near the door like I'm not sure I'm allowed to breathe the same air. Nothing. Nathaniel Shin? Still nothing. He's doing this thing where he's clearly aware I'm here but has decided I'm not worth acknowledging. I walk over and tap his shoulder. He finally looks up, pulls off one headphone, and stares at me with these dark, unreadable eyes that make me feel like I'm being evaluated and found wanting. You're the tutor? His voice is lower than I expected. Smooth. The kind of voice that probably gets him anything he wants. Min-jun Park, I say, extending my hand because I was raised with manners, even if he apparently wasn't. I'll be helping you with... I don't need help. He puts his headphone back on and looks back at his phone. Oh, so we're doing this? Cool, I say loud enough that he can definitely hear me through his music. Then I'll just tell your father you refuse tutoring, collect my cancellation fee, and head out. That gets his attention. He pulls both headphones off this time and actually looks at me like a person rather than furniture. You'd actually do that? He asks, and there's something almost curious in his expression. I'm here to tutor you, I tell him bluntly. If you don't want tutoring, that's fine, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend to teach someone who won't listen. I've got 3 other part-time jobs and assignments due, so either we do this or we don't. For a long moment, he just stares at me, and I swear I'm not imagining this. The corner of his mouth twitches like he's fighting a smile. You're different from the other tutors, he says finally. How many have there been? 7, in the last year. And they all quit? I made them quit. He says it like it's an accomplishment. Well, I don't quit, I tell him, pulling out a chair and sitting down without asking permission. So you're stuck with me. Now, your father says you're failing corporate finance. Let's start there. He looks at me for another long moment, and I can't quite read the expression on his face. It's somewhere between annoyed and interested? Maybe? I don't know. Rich people are weird. Fine, he says eventually, and actually opens his laptop, but only because you're interesting. Red flag. Major red flag. When people call you interesting in that tone, it usually means trouble. But I need the money, so I ignore the warning bells and start explaining financial derivatives like my life depends on it. Tutoring Nathaniel Shin is like trying to teach a cat that may or may not be plotting your demise. Some days he's engaged, asking sharp questions that prove that he's actually way smarter than his grades suggest. Other days, he spends the entire session watching me like I'm a particularly fascinating science experiment, barely touching his work. "Why do you work so hard?" he asks one afternoon, completely out of nowhere. We're supposed to be reviewing market equilibrium, but he's abandoned his notes to stare at me instead. "Because I have to," I answer honestly. "Some of us don't have trust funds." "That's not what I mean." He leans back in his chair, still watching me with that unreadable expression. "You could slack off, take easier classes, still graduate, but you don't. Why?"
I don't know how to explain to someone who's never worried about money that success isn't optional for people like me. That every grade matters because scholarships matter, because without them, I'm back home working at my uncle's restaurant for the rest of my life. Because I want more than what I was given, I say finally. Is that so hard to understand? No, he says quietly. I think I'm starting to get it. There's something in the way he says it that makes me look up from the textbook. He's not smirking or mocking. He looks genuine? Like he actually means it? Your turn, I deflect, because this conversation is getting too personal. Why do you work so hard at failing? He laughs, a real laugh, not the fake polite one I've heard him use with his father's business partners who sometimes stop by. Because it's the only thing I have control over. Everything else in my life is decided for me. What I study, where I work after graduation, who I'm supposed to become. But failing? That's all mine. And suddenly I understand why 7 tutors quit. It's not that Nathaniel is stupid or lazy, it's that he's actively rebelling against a life that was planned for him before he was born. What if you could choose? I ask. What would you study? He's quiet for a long moment. Art history. Photography. Something creative, something that isn't about profit margins and market shares. Then why don't you? Because Shen heirs don't become photographers, he says. And there's so much bitterness in his voice. It actually hurts to hear. We become CEOs. It's tradition. I don't know what to say to that. My problems are about having too few options. His are about having too many restrictions, despite unlimited resources. Well, I finally say, pushing the textbook toward him, how about we make a deal? You actually try in corporate finance, and I'll let you tell me about whatever art exhibit you're secretly obsessing over this week. He looks at me like I've just offered him something precious. Deal. That's when things start changing. Nathaniel stops testing me and starts actually working. His grades improve, his father is thrilled, Professor Kang congratulates me on taming the problem student. But somewhere in the study sessions that run longer than they should, in the conversations about art and ambition and what it means to want something you can't have, something shifts between us. I should have seen it coming. The way Nathaniel starts texting me outside of tutoring hours. The way he coincidentally shows up at the university library where I study between classes. The way his eyes follow me during our sessions, like he's memorizing every detail. You know you don't have to study here, I tell him one afternoon when he appears at my usual library table for the 3rd day in a row. It's quieter here, he says, sitting down across from me without asking. Nathaniel. Nate, he corrects. Only my father calls me Nathaniel. Nate, I try again. You need to understand boundaries. I'm your tutor, not your friend. Why can't you be both? Because that's not professional. I don't care about professional. He leans forward, and there's an intensity in his eyes that makes my breath catch. I care about you. This is bad. This is really bad. You don't even know me, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. I know you take your coffee black because you can't afford the fancy drinks. I know you work 3 jobs and still make time to volunteer at the community center on weekends. I know you're terrified of failure because you think it makes you unworthy of the opportunities you've been given. I know you better than you think." He's been paying attention. Way more attention than I realized. "Nate, this can't happen. Your father is paying me to tutor you, not what? Not care about you? Not want to spend time with you? Not think about you every second you're not around?" His voice drops lower, more intense. "It's too late, Min-jun. I already do all those things. My heart is doing this thing where it's simultaneously racing and stopping completely. This is just proximity," I tell him, trying to be rational even though nothing about the situation is rational. "You're around me a lot. You're confusing familiarity with feelings." "Don't do that," he says sharply. "Don't patronize me by pretending to know what I feel better than I do. Then tell me." I meet his eyes directly because I need him to hear this. "Tell me what happens when you get bored, when the novelty of the scholarship kid wears off. I need this job, Nate. I can't afford to lose it because you're going through some phase." Something flickers across his face. Hurt maybe, or anger. "You think this is a phase? You think I'm that shallow? I think you're 20 years old and you've never had to face real consequences for your actions. I think you're used to getting what you want, and I think I'm a terrible idea for someone in your position. What if I'm wrong?" He reaches across the table and takes my hand before I can pull away. "What if I'm serious? What if this is the first real thing I've ever felt?" His hand is warm, steady, and I'm so tired of fighting against something that feels inevitable. "Then we take this slowly," I hear myself say, even though I know I should walk away. "And if your father finds out?" "He won't," Nate promises, "not until I'm ready to tell him on my terms." That should worry me more than it does. We're careful, or at least we try to be. Tutoring stations stay professional when anyone else is around, but when it's just us, when the door is closed and the estate is quiet, things shift into something else entirely. Nathaniel stops pretending to need help with corporate finance. We both know he's perfectly capable. He just stopped caring. Now he shows up to our sessions to talk about everything except economics. About his dreams of traveling and photographing street art in cities his family considers beneath their status. About my childhood in a small town where everyone knew everyone and opportunities were scarce. About futures that seem impossible for both of us for completely different reasons. "Come with me," he says one evening. We're supposed to be studying for his midterm, but instead we're sitting on the floor of his room, sharing takeout I insisted on paying for because accepting too much from him feels wrong.
Come with you where? Anywhere. Everywhere. After graduation. He says it like it's simple, like logistics and reality don't exist. We could go to Barcelona, Tokyo, New York. I'll photograph the cities and you can, analyze their economic systems or whatever makes you happy. Nate, I can't just leave. Why not? He shifts closer and suddenly there's barely any space between us. What's keeping you here? The debt? I can handle that. The job prospects? You're brilliant. You'll get hired anywhere. Your family? We can visit them. What's the real reason? Because it's not realistic, I say, even though part of me wants to believe in his fantasy. Because eventually you'll take over Shin Industries and I'll be what? Your photographer husband who used to be your tutor? That's not a life, Nate. That's a scandal waiting to happen. I don't care about scandals. He takes my hand, threading our fingers together. I care about you. I'm in love with you, Min-jun, and I know you feel something too. Stop pretending you don't. He's right. I do feel something terrifying and overwhelming and completely inappropriate given our situation. This is insane, I whisper. Probably, he agrees. Then he leans in and kisses me. It's soft at first, tentative, like he's giving me the chance to pull away. I don't. Instead, I kiss him back, and suddenly we're not tutor and student anymore. We're just two people who want something they shouldn't have and are taking it anyway.
When we finally break apart, he's smiling, really smiling, not the fake one he uses for his father's business associates. I've wanted to do that for 3 months, he admits. I know, I tell him. You're not subtle. Good, I don't want to be subtle. I want everyone to know you're mine. That should probably worry me, but right now, with his hand in mind and his eyes full of something that looks like happiness, I can't bring myself to care about consequences. We keep it secret for 2 more months. 2 months of stolen moments and late-night phone calls, and Nate showing up at my apartment with coffee and pastries because he's learned I skip breakfast when I'm stressed. 2 months of falling deeper into something that feels both inevitable and impossible. Then his father finds out. I'm at the estate for our usual Saturday session when CEO Shin walks into the study unannounced. Nate and I aren't doing anything inappropriate. We're actually studying. But something about the way we're sitting close together, the way we look at each other, must give us away. Min-jun Park, CEO Shin says, and his voice is ice. May I speak with you privately? Nate stands up immediately. Father, whatever you want to say, you can say it in front of... Sit down, Nathaniel. It's not a request. I follow CEO Shin to his office, my heart pounding because I know exactly how this conversation is going to go. You're fired, he says, the moment the door closes. Effective immediately. Sir, I can explain. You were hired to improve my son's grades, not seduce him. His expression is cold, calculated. I've already transferred your payment through the end of the month. Consider it a severance package. In return, you will cease all contact with Nathaniel. With all due respect, sir, I didn't seduce anyone. Your son and I... My son is going through a phase, an unfortunate phase that you took advantage of for financial gain. That ends now. That's not what happened. I don't care what happened. He leans forward, and there's something threatening in his posture. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave this estate and never contact my son again. If you do, I will personally ensure that every scholarship, every job opportunity, every door that's ever been opened for you gets slammed shut. Do you understand? I understand perfectly. He's threatening my entire future. And if I don't agree, then I'll make sure Min-jun Park becomes unemployable in this city. I have connections at every major corporation, every university. One call from me and your promising career ends before it begins. He slides an envelope across the desk. There's a check in there for 50 million won. Consider it an incentive for your cooperation. I don't touch the envelope. You're trying to buy me off. I'm trying to protect my son from making a mistake that will haunt him for the rest of his life. You're a nice kid, Min-jun. Smart, hardworking, but you're not the right fit for this family. Surely you understand that. The terrible thing is, part of me does understand. Part of me has always known that someone like me doesn't end up with someone like Nathaniel Shin. That's not how the world works. But another part, the part that's fallen in love with Nate despite every logical reason not to, refuses to accept that. I need to talk to him, I say finally. No, you need to leave, now. I don't take the money, but I do leave the estate because what choice do I have? CEO Shin has made it clear, walk away now or lose everything I've worked for. Nate calls 17 times that night. I don't answer. He shows up at my apartment at midnight, pounding on the door until my neighbors complain. Min-jun, open the door. I know you're in there. I finally open it because I can't bear the sound of desperation in his voice. He looks wrecked, hair messy, eyes red, still wearing the same clothes from earlier. Why are you avoiding me? What did my father say to you? He fired me, I tell him honestly, and he made it clear that if I don't stay away from you, he'll destroy any chance I have at a future. He can't do that. He can, Nate, and he will. You know he will. Then we leave. Nate steps into my apartment, closing the door behind him. Tonight, we pack our bags and go. Tokyo, Barcelona, anywhere he can't reach us. And then what? We live off your trust fund while I throw away everything I've worked for? While you give up your family and your inheritance? Yes, if that's what it takes. Nate, I love you. He takes my face in his hands, and there are actual tears in his eyes. I love you more than I've ever loved anything, more than I care about my father's approval or my family's money or any of it. You're the only real thing in my life. Please don't let him take that away. And God, I want to say yes. I want to believe we can make it work despite every logical reason we can't. What happens when the money runs out? I ask quietly. What happens when you resent me for being the reason you lost everything? What happens when you realize I'm not worth it? That's not going to happen, he insists. You don't know that. I pull away because if I don't, I'll never be able to do what I have to do. We've known each other for 5 months, Nate. 5 months. That's not enough time to throw away our entire futures. It's enough time for me to know I want forever with you. You're 20 years old. You don't know what forever means. Stop doing that. His voice rises, frustrated and hurt. Stop treating me like I'm too young to know what I feel. Stop making decisions for both of us because you're scared. I am scared. I'm terrified because I love you too, and that's the problem. Loving you means I want what's best for you, even if that's not me. The silence that follows is deafening. You're really doing this, Nate finally says. You're really choosing his threats over us. I'm choosing reality over fantasy. I'm choosing to protect both our futures instead of destroying them for something that might not last. It would last, he insists. I would make it last. You don't get to make that promise. Neither of us do. He stares at me for a long moment, and I watch something break behind his eyes. So that's it? You're just giving up? I'm being realistic. No, you're being a coward. He heads for the door, and every instinct I have screams at me to stop him. When you realize you made a mistake, when you finally admit that you threw away
The best thing that ever happened to both of us because you were too afraid to fight for it, don't come looking for me, because I won't wait forever. Then he's gone, and I'm alone in my apartment with the ghost of a future I just destroyed. Graduation comes and goes. I land a job at a prestigious firm. I pay off my debt. I achieve everything I've been working toward my entire life. And none of it feels like enough. I don't hear from Nate after that night. I delete his number so I'm not tempted to call. I avoid the business section of newspapers because seeing the Shin family name makes my chest hurt. I try to move on. I fail spectacularly. Then, 4 years after I walked away, I run into him at a university alumni event I'm attending for networking purposes. He's across the room, talking to someone I don't recognize, and he looks different, older, more polished. He's wearing a suit that probably costs more than my car, his hair is styled, and he's doing that fake smile thing I remember from when he had to be on for business functions. Our eyes meet across the room, and everything stops. He excuses himself from his conversation and walks toward me, and I have about 30 seconds to prepare for this before he's standing right in front of me. Min-jun, he says, and his voice is carefully neutral. Nate, I didn't know you'd be here. I'm presenting the Shin Industry Scholarship Awards tonight, part of my new responsibilities as executive director. Executive director? Congratulations. That's great. Is it? There's something sharp in his tone. I'm doing exactly what my father wanted, living the life that was planned for me. Isn't that what you wanted? For me to embrace reality instead of fantasy? That hurts more than it should. Nate, You were right, by the way, about all of it. I was young, I was impulsive. I didn't understand what I was asking you to sacrifice. Then why do you look so miserable? The mask cracks just for a second, because understanding you were right doesn't make missing you any easier. And just like that, 4 years of distance evaporate. I'm sorry, I whisper. I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. You were, he says, and he sounds so tired. My father would have destroyed you, your career, your reputation, everything. I understand why you walked away. But that doesn't mean I forgive you for not letting me make that choice with you, for deciding my future without asking what I wanted. He's right. I did do that. What do you want now? I ask, because I need to know.
Nate looks at me for a long moment, and I see the boy I fell in love with buried under layers of corporate polish and carefully constructed walls. I want to go back 4 years and fight harder. I want to tell my father to go to hell and run away with you like I wanted to. I want to not be standing here in a suit I hate, preparing to give a speech about legacy and responsibility, when all I really want is to photograph street art in Barcelona with the only person who ever made me feel like myself. Nate. But I can't have any of that. So instead, I'm going to give this speech and shake hands with donors and go home to my expensive apartment that feels empty no matter how much furniture I put in it. And you're going to go back to your successful career and your practical life, and we're both going to pretend this conversation never happened. What if I don't want to pretend? He laughs, but there's no humor in it. Then you're 4 years too late, Min-jun. He walks away, gives his speech, awards the scholarships, plays the perfect corporate heir. And I stand there realizing I made the biggest mistake of my life. I find him after the event in a hallway where he's clearly hiding from more networking obligations. I was wrong, I say without preamble. 4 years ago, I was wrong. Min-jun, don't... I was scared. Terrified, actually, of your father, of losing everything I'd worked for, of not being good enough for you. So I made a choice based on fear instead of love, and I've regretted it every single day since. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm not 21 anymore. I have the career I wanted. I've proven I can succeed on my own terms, and none of it matters, because the only thing I actually want is you. You can't just... I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm asking anyway, because I've spent 4 years trying to move on and failing miserably, and I'm tired of pretending I don't still love you. Nate stares at me, and I can see him processing, remembering, deciding. My father still won't approve, he finally says. I don't care about your father's approval anymore. I'm still expected to take over the company eventually. Then take it over. I'll support you. You really think we can make this work? I think we're both older, more established, and better equipped to fight for what we want, and I think I'm done running from the best thing that ever happened to me. For a long moment, he doesn't say anything. Then, I've dated other people, tried to move on. It didn't work. Nothing worked because none of them were you. Same. If we do this, if I give you another chance, you don't get to run again. No matter what my father threatens, no matter how hard it gets, you stay. Deal? Deal. He closes the distance between us and kisses me right there in the hallway where anyone could see. It's desperate and relieved and feels like coming home after being lost for 4 years. I missed you, he whispers against my lips. So much. I missed you too. Every day. Good. He pulls back just enough to look at me. Because you're going to spend the rest of your life making this up to me. I can live with that. CEO Shin eventually accepts our relationship. Not immediately. There's a 6-month period where he barely speaks to Nate and tries to buy me off twice more. But eventually, when he realizes Nate is serious and I'm not going anywhere, he grudgingly acknowledges that maybe his son could do worse. You're stubborn, he tells me at a family dinner. I suppose that's a quality we can work with. It's not exactly a warm welcome, but it's progress. Nate takes over as CEO of Shin Industries. I work as his strategic advisor, partially because I'm actually good at it, and partially because it gives us a legitimate reason to work together without raising eyebrows. On weekends, we travel. Barcelona, Tokyo, New York, all the cities Nate dreamed about. He photographs street art while I analyze economic systems, and somehow we make both our dreams work. We're married now. Small ceremony, mostly family, nothing like the elaborate event CEO Shin originally wanted. Nate wore a suit he actually chose himself. I cried during the vows. His father looked vaguely uncomfortable, but didn't object. Was it worth it? Nate asks, one evening. We're in our apartment, the one we chose together, not the one his family picked out. He's editing photos while I review quarterly reports. All the fighting and drama and years of misery. Absolutely, I tell him, moving to sit in his lap. Because I get to spend the rest of my life with you. That's worth everything. Even tutoring my terrible study habits? Even that. He kisses me, soft and sweet and familiar. I love you, Min-jun Park. I love you too, Nathaniel Shin. Don't call me that. I know, but sometimes I like reminding you that I fell in love with the real you, not the corporate persona. That's disgustingly sentimental. You love it. I really do. If you told me 5 years ago that tutoring a spoiled rich university student would lead to the love of my life, I would have laughed in your face. But that's the thing about life. Sometimes the most unexpected opportunities turn into the most beautiful stories. Sometimes obsession turns into devotion. Sometimes impossible turns into inevitable. And sometimes the tutor and the boss's son get there happily ever after despite every obstacle in their way. Not bad for a job I only took because I needed the money. Not bad at all.